What's up? Welcome to The Point. I'm your host, Ana Kasparian, and it feels good to be back after taking a week off. Of course, we did that double-decker show, but we're back this week with our awesome executive producer, David Janet. Want to give him credit because he never gets a shout-out on the show. And he has some really great topics prepared for the program today. We're going to start off by talking about something tragic that happened in Japan. There was a volcano eruption. We're going to tell you what the damage was. And also, there was a really funny interview with Kristen Wiig and Bill Hader. A local news reporter kind of made an ass out of himself, and we'll give you the details on that. A self-proclaimed first bar for pregnant women has opened in New York. Does it really serve alcohol? We'll expose them. And cancer victims are allegedly coming back to life in Greece. Is that true, or is there something else at play? And finally, men become friends after discovering that they've been married to the same woman. So nice little love triangle there. I love those salacious stories that we can discuss with our panelists. And we have two returning panelists today, starting off with Robby Motz. He's the host of Equals 3 on YouTube. Robby, thank you for coming back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Last time you were on the show, I asked you some pretty unsavory questions.
You know, it's all right. I learned how to handle that, and I'm excited for this one.
Yes. All right. Well, we have Erica Williams-Simon also coming back to join us today. She's a motivational speaker and curator for Upworthy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get started with the very first topic. Unfortunately, we do start off with some tragic news. A volcano erupted in Japan, killing a total of 36 people. Now, it happened just before noon on Saturday on Mount Ontake in central Japan. And at first, there were about 31 people that were found to be dead. And then later on, 5 more lifeless bodies were found on the mountain slopes on Monday morning. One of the hikers did manage to capture the eruption on camera, so let's take a look at that.
こうなんか心の下
どうするこの影見た方がいい
やばいねこれ
下がるもっと避難小屋ってどこにある避難小屋どこ移動しましょう
間に合わん
Now, I'm unclear as to whether or not those hikers made it, but it's kind of incredible that they sounded so calm as a volcano is erupting. I mean, I would run for my life. Another point that I want to make that's less relevant but needs to be made is when you're getting video footage of something that's happening, please hold your phones horizontally. Please, for the love of God, we want to get a better view of what's going on. So I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about this. Robby, make your point.
Okay, so first of all, holding it horizontally. I don't think that was on his mind, but you know,
fair enough.
But yes, in normal situations, you want to hold your phones horizontally. I think it's crazy that something like this gets captured on camera for us to watch. Like, this is something that humans haven't been able to do before, where it's like, here's a gigantic tragedy, something awful that's happened, and we have a first-person account of what's happened. And I think what's so freaky about this is you see the cloud coming, and it doesn't feel like it's a threat. You know, it's silent, no one's screaming, it's just like, you know, it's coming at you, but you don't quite realize what that actually is going to be, which is just all that hot ash coming at you. So
yeah, Erica, I was really surprised at how calm they were. Or at least, I mean, I don't understand Japanese, so maybe what they were saying showed that there was like some sense of urgency to get out of there, but they sounded so calm. What do you think?
Yeah, that was what was really puzzling to me. Like, there was no screaming, there was no running. They were kind of quietly talking and moving, and then they stopped for a moment. I can only imagine what I would have done in that situation, which is like scream to the high heavens and run, drop the camera. So their level of composure is fascinating.
It's really incredible. I would have the exact same response. So obviously they're faced with an imminent threat, and I want to know what you guys would do if you were dealing with an imminent threat, specifically something like the zombie apocalypse, where you have a chance to survive, but you have to go through quite a bit to make that happen. Erica, what would you do?
I've thought a lot about the zombie apocalypse in my life. You know, I think I would brace myself for the worst. Like, I wouldn't hope against hope that I would survive. I would probably plan to die and then try anyway. Like, why not? I would definitely want to live, so I would do whatever I had to do, but kind of in the back of my mind, no, this is not going to really end well.
Robby, what about you?
I'm on the same page. As living my life as a nerd, I've been preparing for years for the zombie apocalypse. I've done my research. So if that were to happen, like, this is the all-stars, you know, this is where like all my knowledge comes to the front and I get to try it. And so I probably won't survive, but I'd probably be able to do, I don't know, a couple of badass things before. So I'd want to do that.
Yeah, I don't even like sitting through or going through a Bikram yoga class, much less dealing with a zombie apocalypse. So if there were a zombie apocalypse, my reaction would be, all right, well, it's over. I wouldn't even try. And by the way, you survived the zombie apocalypse and look at the destruction around you. What a torturous existence. I don't want that. But I want to know what you guys would do. Would you try to survive the zombie apocalypse? And also, what do you think about the video that we just showed you of the volcano erupting? What would your reaction be? We love hearing from you, so comment in the section below and we'll see you guys soon. Former Saturday Night Live actors Kristen Wiig and Bill Hader were doing an interview to kind of promote their new movie coming out called The Skeleton Twins. And usually when they do these interviews, it's a nice opportunity for them to plug what they're doing, and they usually assume that the person interviewing them has a sense of what the movie is about, or better yet, has actually seen the movie. But that wasn't the case with this particular interview. It's a local news affiliate in Denver. Just watch how it goes down.
Like I said, in Toronto, it was the talk of the festival. Critics love it. It's a great film. Kristen, I am thinking on this program of doing the news completely full frontal, completely nude. Do you recommend that, and do you have advice for going nude?
Do I have advice for going nude?
In the film, you do it in the film.
Moisturize.
Not this film.
Movie, not this movie.
This film.
Not this movie.
That's a different movie.
This is Skeleton Twins, which is a drama that played at Sundance.
Yes.
And it has us in it, and it's a totally different movie.
This was great.
The movie you want to go see is called Skeleton Twins.
Skeleton Twins.
Kristen is fully clothed in it. I'm fully clothed in it. And it's...
it is a drama.
It is a comedy. And it is a comedy. And it's a very sweet film. And
Chris has not seen it.
Chris has not seen it.
Wait, I thought there were Muppets. There's no Muppet.
All right, I think that, you know, they handled that interview appropriately. They didn't seem like they got hurt over the fact that the reporter obviously didn't see the movie. But just to talk about the reporter a little bit, Chris, you can get it. Okay? It's all right that you're not good at your job. Give me a call. You're a hottie. Okay? I was like, whatever. Who cares about the Skeleton Twins? I want to see more of this Chris guy. Hell yeah, that is a good-looking reporter. Okay? I'm not mad at him. And apparently the actors aren't mad at him either. But that's my point. What's your point? Robby, let's start with you.
I think what better people to do this to than Kristen Wiig and Bill Hader, because they, like, of course, they're the ones who are going to appreciate a goof up like that. You know, they're not going to be like, hey, I worked really hard on this. And they weren't insulted. They were just like, yeah, you fucked up. And it was really funny.
I know. Erica, what do you think?
The only thing I could think about was what would have happened if that had been Kanye West.
Oh my God,
right,
that
like
is
how
such a great
that could
point.
have gone wrong.
Yes.
So they were totally awesome about it.
Oh my, I want that to happen to Kanye West.
I kind of did too.
That would be an epic moment, okay? It would be so great. But one point that I do want to make about, you know, reporters and what they do when it comes to interviewing someone who's written a book or has appeared in a movie is more often than not, they don't see the movie and they don't actually read the book. They rely on a producer to kind of brief them and give them a synopsis. And in this case, it seems like the producer didn't do his or her job appropriately, which sucks. And look, a lot of reporters don't have time to sit down and read every single book that they're gonna, you know, need to know about for an interview. So that's really how it goes down behind the scenes. Here's a question for the story, though. What's the worst mistake that you've made on the job? Erica, I'm gonna start with you.
So when I lived in Washington, D.C., I used to work in politics, like hardcore policy. And I started off doing punditry, like on TV, at the age of like 22.
Wow.
Didn't really know what I was doing, but I was good on camera, and there were a couple issues that I was an expert on at 22. I also did know that you're kind of supposed to know about everything, or at least be able to pretend. Mm-hmm. I didn't. So right before my interview, which was about voting rights, something happened around the Iraq War, and they turned to me for foreign policy commentary.
Oh my.
I had no idea what I was talking about, and I didn't know how to say that. So I said something that was really stupid, Really not how I feel, certainly not how my organization feels, and we got so much backlash online.
Oh no!
Like, and you know how people on the internet are. Like they hated me.
Tear you apart.
No, I got written about on like a massive political blog, and it was pretty humiliating.
Yeah.
But my boss was awesome and so supportive.
Yeah, I mean, that teaches you character. It teaches you how to be better at your job. We all mess up, right? I certainly haven't. I'm going to share my story in a minute, but first, Robbie, you share yours.
Yeah, I don't actually mess up.
Never.
No, I make mistakes all the time, but I haven't made any ones that have had that sort of consequence. So I'm going to tell a quick little story about my friend.
How great I am at my job and how I never fuck up.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what.
I don't want to hear that.
But what my favorite thing is when actors mess up on a live performance on stage. And there was one time we were doing a play at my high school, and one of the actors gave a cue line 8 pages too early. And the tech had no choice but to start the cue, and all of these things that were supposed to happen didn't happen. And so you see all of us on the stage go, and we all look at each other, and it's that, okay, we're gonna improv the next 20 minutes, and we're gonna have to figure out how to fit everything back into the story after it was supposed to happen. So that was really fun. In a kind of horrifying way.
Yeah, and it kind of shows how good you are as an actor if you can like deal with that, you know, like an unexpected thing and kind of be on your toes. I don't even know how people do improv. That scares the hell out of me. I've been to a few improv comedy shows and I'm like, wow, these people are crazy. But I mean, look, I wish I could say that my fuck-ups weren't that big of a deal, right? But when you work on a news show, when you do mess up, it has very serious ramifications. So one story that comes to mind was this story including this lesbian couple that needed to do in vitro fertilization. It's really, really expensive to do it. So they actually asked for a sperm donor on Craigslist or online. And this guy came up, and he basically said, came up is a really interesting way of putting this. But anyway, this one guy offered his sperm for free, and so they used his sperm and they got pregnant. And then apparently they were in a red state that hasn't legalized same-sex marriage yet. So they get pregnant, they have the baby, and then they separate. And one of the mothers needs financial assistance, right? And so she goes to the government looking for some sort of government aid to help raise her baby. And they're like, well, who's the father? We haven't legalized same-sex marriage. What's going on? And then they had to name the actual biological father, and then the state went after him, right? When I originally reported that story, I thought that the couple went after him, not the state. And that's the way I reported it, and then we were extremely harsh on the lesbian couple. That was terrible, and I felt horrible about it. We got written up in some blogs, and people were like tearing us apart for getting it wrong. That was my mistake, and that was my bad, and I'm sorry, and of course we corrected it. But yeah, sometimes you get the facts wrong, and you have to come back and apologize for it. But I want to know about you guys. Have you ever had an epic mistake at work? What were the ramifications? How did you deal with it? Did it make you a better employee, or did you get fired? And also, what do you think about that interview with Kristen Wiig and Bill Hader? How would you have handled it? And do you think that they handled it appropriately? Share your comments in the section below, and we'll see you guys soon. Doesn't it really suck when you get pregnant and you're not able to drink? That's what Gestations is saying. Well, at least that's what it seems like they're saying. It's a new bar in NYC that hasn't opened yet, but they claim to be New York City's first bar for pregnant women. And they have a bunch of misleading ads, including some that say things like, all you mothers-to-be should come check out our trimester specials and our 9-month happy hour because now you're drinking for 2. They also tweeted, the bigger the belly, the more you can drink, true for men and pregnant women. Hashtag gestationy. Now, I should note that they have not applied for a liquor license. This could all be a marketing scheme to kind of drum up attention. It could be something like a juice bar, but nonetheless, they're relying on very, very questionable marketing in order to get our attention. And look, it worked because we're talking about it on The Point. But I want to know what you guys have to say about it. Erica, make your point.
I think it's really effective marketing. I think it's slightly dangerous because we shouldn't be showing a bunch of pregnant women drinking alcohol. But it's effective. We know they wanted to get us talking. They wanted to kind of drum up interest in the bar, whatever it's going to be, and they did that. So I'm really curious to see what it's going to end up being.
Robbie, what do you think?
I want to be at that pitch meeting. I want to be at the meeting where that guy, whoever he was like, hey, let's start a bar for pregnant women. Well, aren't you supposed to? No. It's going to get a lot of attention. I swear it's a good. And the fact that they went with that idea and ran with it, I'm actually, as like terrible as it is for pregnant women to be drinking, it's kind of really funny. I think it's really funny that someone is trying this. And yeah, and if they turn out to not be selling alcohol, like good marketing scheme, but also bad reputation for misleading everyone.
So you think it's funny that pregnant women would drink?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I think it's funny that someone thought that was a good idea for a bar. That's what I think is funny.
You are the only panelist that comes on the show that I give a really hard time to. Probably because you're like such a sweet guy.
That I'm like,
I'm gonna give him a hard time.
I gotta make him look bad.
Yes. All right. So here are my thoughts about it. I mean, yes, it is good marketing because we're talking about it, but yeah, I think that the company should also be concerned about their reputation. In a lot of ways, it's misleading advertising, and for those who don't have two brain cells to rub together, they might actually look at this and think, oh wait, if there's a business that allows for women to drink while they're pregnant, maybe it's not that big of a deal. Who knows? But I'm not really a fan of what they're doing. I think that they should probably find a different, irreverent way of promoting their business. So here's the question for this story. What would you do if you saw a pregnant woman drinking at a bar? Erica, let me start with you.
I would probably be a little concerned, but I certainly wouldn't go and interrupt a woman and start correcting her or judging her. I have no idea what's going on.
Right.
I'd probably try to be nice to her and find out if she's really pregnant through a conversation.
Right.
And then maybe imply that that's not the safest thing. But her body, her choice.
Absolutely. Robbie, what about you?
Yeah, key phrasing there, if she's pregnant. So if I saw it, I was like, that woman's probably pregnant. I'm gonna silently judge her, but on the chance that she's not pregnant, I'm not gonna start that conversation.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like, hey, you're pregnant. No, I'm not. So no, I probably would just sit where I am.
Right. I like a combination of both of what you guys said. So Erica, I would try to find some tricky pizzicky ways to figure out whether or not she is pregnant, and once she confirms it, I wouldn't talk to her about it. I'd talk to the bartender and be like, yo, you're giving alcohol to a pregnant lady. Come on, let's calm down a little bit,
right? What is this,
right?
gestations, huh?
I feel like, exactly. I would find a way to do it tactfully. That way, the woman doesn't feel uncomfortable or whatever. And by the way, I should note, even though it's stated that pregnant women shouldn't drink alcohol at all, in a lot of European countries, women drink up to 1 glass of wine a day while they're pregnant, and it's fine. I'm not advocating for that, but it's not like a death sentence if you have a glass of wine while you're pregnant. I know that. But anyway, yeah, it's a tricky thing. It's a difficult thing to deal with. But what would you do if you were at a bar and you saw a pregnant woman? Let's say that it's confirmed she's pregnant. Do you approach her? Do you talk to the bartender? And also, what do you think about the marketing that Gestations is using to get into the press? It's obviously working, but do you think it's a good idea? Share in the section below, and we'll talk to you guys soon. What would you do if you were dealing with a situation where someone who had died came back to life? That's what one group of people thought happened in Greece when a cancer patient who was being buried allegedly started making noise inside of her coffin. Now, people say that the 48-year-old cancer patient was absolutely dead, and this could have been a case of rigor mortis, but people who heard it say, no, it sounded like she was trying to get out of that coffin, so they were desperately trying to dig her out of the grave. Unfortunately, when they opened the coffin, she was dead, but doctors still confirmed that no, she was already dead, and this is not what people think it is. Now, this is a scary story. Authorities have not identified who this woman is, but I am curious to see what you guys think about it and how you would react if this happened. Robbie, let me start with you. Make your point.
Yeah, this is unreal. Just thinking about it kind of freaks me out a lot. Of what happened? And I was half expecting maybe Chris Angel came out of the grave later and we'd be like, oh, that's what happened. But the fact that we're never gonna know what really went on there, it freaks me out.
Yeah, it's really scary. I mean, if that was a family member of mine, I would be devastated to have to go through something like that. Erica, what do you think?
If I were in a cemetery and I heard what sounded like someone trying to get out of a coffin, I dig. I don't really care if it seems logical or scientific. On the off chance that something is happening,
we were working for.
Yeah, you get a shovel and you dig. So I get that people wanted to try to help in some way.
Yeah, I would have the exact same reaction, especially if it's someone that's close to me. It's like, oh my God, maybe there was a mistake. And there have been cases like that where they think someone is dead and then all of a sudden they turn out to be alive. So it's not that far-fetched that something like that could happen. But here's the question. What's one ghost myth or story that you've actually bought into or believe? Erica, let me start with you.
So I don't really have any ghost myths or stories, but I grew up, I was a pastor's kid. So my church was totally cool, totally logical and progressive, but we were traveling a lot. So we always went to go visit these churches that were sometimes like in the backwoods and like really old school. And I have seen several people like do the whole, I'm in a wheelchair and then I get prayed for and now I can walk. Like I've actually seen that. I don't know if it's real. Most of the times I probably doubt it. But I've seen so many of those things that I'm always like I question.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I have some superstitions I believe in. I'll get to that in a second. But Robby, what about you? Do you have any myths you believe in?
Global warming.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right. Okay. That's a very good one.
Yeah, I tend to be, for the most part, fairly skeptical of ghost stories and things like that. And I'm just waiting for the day that, like, Captain Barbosa from Pirates of the Caribbean, like, comes out as a skeleton and he's, you better believe in ghost stories because you're in one. And I'm going to find myself in that situation. Oh, no. I still probably wouldn't believe it. I'd be like, come on, I grew up in Hollywood. What is this? Huh? Come on. What's going on here?
Yeah, there are some special effects happening right now. Yeah. I don't necessarily believe in ghosts or spirits or anything like that, but I do believe in the evil eye, which sounds so ridiculous, but I've talked about this on the show before. I do believe that karma exists, and I do believe that if you are boastful about your earnings or your success or your great life, people who are jealous of you are going to give you the evil eye, and then bad things are going to happen to you. Ooh. As insane as that sounds, for some reason, like I feel it, which is why I do my best not to talk about my success, right? I remember I got this big raise once, and I was like, I don't know if I should tell my family, you know, because my mom's gonna go brag about it, and then other family members might give me the evil eye. And I remember telling Cenk about that, and he's like, you're ridiculous. So, yeah, that's the one.
I think that's a really interesting social observation, though.
Yeah.
It's like when you get a lot of people.
I think envy is a natural human reaction, right? And I'm worried about what envy can do.
Yeah.
And it sounds crazy, but that's why I'm always trying to be as humble as possible, even though, you know, sometimes it's hard. But
Looking so good with your hair today.
You know. Anyway, but I want to know if you guys believe in any ghost stories, if you believe in spirits. Do you believe in religion? I mean, that kind of plays a role as well, and I want to hear in the comment section below. I know a lot of times when we talk about religion on the show, it includes people who are either agnostic and atheist, but we have some religious people watching as well, so I want to hear your story. And also, what do you think about someone who might be coming back to life while they're already in their coffin? How would you react to that? Comment in the section below, and as always, we'll see you guys soon. Two people have become best friends after finding out that they've been married to the same woman. Now, the two dudes in question are Chris Thomas and Peter Sherritt. It turns out that they're both married to Karen Sherritt. I don't know how she did this, but apparently she was prosecuted for bigamy as a result, which, by the way, is freaking ridiculous. You're gonna prosecute her for bigamy? Nonetheless, she was jailed for 4 months this summer as a result of being convicted of bigamy, but the two dudes that were married to her actually ended up being really good friends. Now, let me tell you how this all went down. Karen Sherritt married Peter in 2005, but they split up a year later. 6 years later, okay, in 2012, she met Chris on a dating website and they married 7 months later. So it's kind of crazy because she wasn't really, yes, she was legally married to the first guy, but she wasn't really having a relationship with him. And even though that was the case, these two dudes got together and they were like, oh, can you believe that two-timing hoe? But she wasn't really two-timing. Just because you're married on paper doesn't mean you actually have a relationship. Obviously, I've already made my point on this story. But Erica, why don't you make your point?
So I took a really feminist stance on this. I was just kind of excited to see this type of story happen with a woman at the center.
Thank you.
And not with a man and two like sad women who meet each other and find out like he's backstabbing them. So like, yay for her.
No, I agree with you, and I don't even think the guy should feel like they've been backstabbed. I mean, again, just because you're married on paper doesn't mean you have a relationship. Robby, what do you think?
I'm waiting for the sitcom for this to come out. I just like, what? Then, you know, these two guys, so you're married to her too? Yep. You want to get a drink? You know, like that was the approach that they took to this. Is like, hey, let's become buddies. Apparently, we're in the same marriage.
What's amazing is they got together and they're both like commiserating about how terrible the relationship was, right? Which, okay, maybe the relationship was terrible, but nonetheless, I hate how our country pretends as though we're so open and free, and then we have the state getting involved in relationships and telling us who we can and can't get married to, how many people we can get married to, when we can get married. Just calm the hell down, let us live our lives, right? As long as there are 2 consenting adults, 3 consenting adults, 20 consenting adults, let them do whatever the hell it is that they want to do. So here's the question: would you ever be open to a long-term open relationship? So you're with someone, you love each other, but you guys are both like doing the swinging thing, hanging out with other people. Erica, what do you think?
Yeah, that don't work for me. My grandmother is from the South, and she used to have this phrase, don't leave the back door open if you don't want the bugs to come in. And I feel like the idea of an open relationship, I respect it for some people.
Yeah.
I don't want the bugs in, doesn't work for me in my life.
No, I totally hear that. Robbie?
No, it freaks me out. There would be too many weird moments, I think, where just, I don't know. I would start getting like really
Jealous?
oh, so jealous, and in a weird way competitive. It'd be like, oh, you got her roses, well, I got her a car, and then I'm like wasting money on like stupid things. But I could never do that especially a long term.
Yep.
Where you've been with them for so long. There's kind of this partnership that I would want to just be here, and not to.
Yep.
What?
Well, the argument that if you've been together that long, that's a lot of times when people decide an open relationship is necessary because you're tired of the person.
So I like that you bring that up. So I mean, it's easy for me to say that no, I'm not open to an open relationship, but I'm in a new relationship that I'm really happy with, right? And it's new and exciting, but 10 years down the line, if it lasts that long, right? Not to say it won't. You're the best. You're the best. But you never know where you're going to be, and maybe you want to spice things up. And having an open relationship doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have an emotional tie to another person. If it's like a physical thing, is that really enough to destroy a relationship? I don't know. I think it opens up a lot of really interesting questions. So I'm kind of on the fence with it. I definitely don't want it now, but who's to say whether or not I'm going to change my mind in the future, right? Don't get any ideas. Anyway, but I want to know what you guys think. Comment in the section below. Would you ever want to be in a long-term open relationship? Do you think it makes sense? Do you think it spices things up? Or do you think it just destroys relationships? And also, what are your thoughts on people getting prosecuted and convicted for things like polygamy or bigamy? I'm against it, but maybe you have a really good argument in favor of it, so I want to hear from you. Comment in the section below, and we'll see you guys soon. All right, we had a freaking badass show today.
Yeah,
it was really fun, and I knew it would happen because we have great panelists.
Yay!
So, Robby Motz, you're the host of Equals3 on YouTube. Can you tell the audience a little more about that?
Okay, Equals3 was started by Ray William Johnson, I think 5 years ago. It's a viral video review show, one of the first YouTube shows ever. And so 2 months ago, he handed off the torch to me, and I'm the new host. So check it out on Ray William Johnson. That's the YouTube channel.
Awesome. And Erica?
Yeah, so I work for Upworthy.com, where we help promote videos that matter and make them go viral. So you can check us out on Upworthy.com. And I also help people figure out the messages that will make social change happen in the world through motivational speaking. So you can check me out my Twitter, created by Erica, E-R-I-C-A.
I'm Ana Kasparian, and I'm now thinking about what I said in the last story and whether or not my mom heard it. But you guys can check out more of my commentary on The Young Turks Monday through Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's youtube.com/TheYoungTurks. My personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/Ana Kasparian. Follow me on Twitter, Ana Kasparian, and on Instagram, Ana Kasparian TYT. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I love hearing from you, so make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment in the section below. You know that at the end of the month, we do read some of the best comments and make a video about it and respond to it as well. It's all about engagement. We want to hear from you guys, so make sure you chime in. And of course, we'll see you guys next week with another episode of The Point. Back to life in Greece. Is that true, or is there something else at play? And finally, men become friends after discovering that they've been married to the same woman. So nice little love triangle there. I love those salacious stories that we can discuss with our panelists. And we have two returning panelists today, starting off with Robby Motz. He's the host of Equals 3 on YouTube. Robby, thank you for coming back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Last time you were on the show, I asked you some pretty unsavory questions.
You know, it's all right. I learned how to handle that, and I'm excited for this one.
Yes. All right. And well, we have Erica Williams-Simon also coming back to join us today. She's a motivational speaker and curator for Upworthy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
やばいねこれ。
下がるもっと。避難小屋ってどこにある？
避難小屋どこ？
移動しましょう。
間に合わん。
All right, so let's get started with the very first topic. Unfortunately, we do start off with some tragic news. A volcano erupted in Japan, killing a total of 36 people. Now, it happened just before noon on Saturday on Mount Ontake in central Japan. And at first, there were about 31 people that were found to be dead. And then later on, 5 more lifeless bodies were found on the mountain slopes on Monday morning. One of the hikers did manage to capture the eruption on camera, so let's take a look at that.
これなんかここらの下。
どうする？この影にいた方がいい？
いや。
Now, I'm unclear as to whether or not those hikers made it, but it's kind of incredible that they sounded so calm as a volcano is erupting. I mean, I would run for my life. Another point that I want to make that's less relevant but needs to be made is when you're getting video footage of something that's happening, please hold your phones horizontally. Please, for the love of God, we want to get a better view of what's going on. So I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about this. Robby, make your point.
Okay, so first of all, holding it horizontally. I don't think that was on his mind, but you know,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But
Okay.
yes, in normal.
What's up? Welcome to The Point. I'm your host, Ana Kasparian, and it feels good to be back after taking a week off. Of course, we did that double-decker show, but we're back this week with our awesome executive producer, David Janet. Want to give him credit because he never gets a shout-out on the show. And he has some really great topics prepared for the program today. We're going to start off by talking about something tragic that happened in Japan. There was a volcano eruption. We're going to tell you what the damage was. And also, there was a really funny interview with Kristen Wiig and Bill Hader. A local news reporter kind of made an ass out of himself, and we'll give you the details on that. A self-proclaimed first bar for pregnant women has opened in New York. Does it really serve alcohol? We'll expose them. And cancer victims are allegedly coming